Hey everyone, this is my second summer reading summary. I have 4 more books for you. I'm going to put them in order of how I read them. The first one is Crossed by Condie, or Alison Braithwaite Condie, as the name was on the first novel, Matched. So this is the second book in a trilogy, and the third book is not yet published. It's a dystopian novel, which they're kind of popular in YA right now, and I liked it. First of all, it had been such a long time since I had read Matched that I had to go and read some summaries on Goodreads and stuff to remember exactly what was going on by the time we got to this book. So it probably would have been beneficial if I could have read them closer together because I didn't really remember what was happening. But Crossed was a little bit slow moving. It kind of seemed like more just a setup book to whatever the third one will be. And so I'm hoping that the third one is really epic, because this one was a little eh. Also, spoiler alert a little bit, when they go to the Rising at the end, it kind of seems to me like it's just another version of the society, and it's stupid. And I hope it's not like that, and I hope that they're actually like good people who aren't going to control their lives like society does, but I think it's kind of going to be like in Hunger Games, where District 13 is basically just another version of the Capitol. And so, I don't know. I liked it, and I really like the writing style. It is very poetic. There's actually a lot of poetry in here too, which is cool, but not enough action, and I hope that the third one lives up to the setup that this one brings. Next is Outcasts United by Warren St. John, and this is a nonfiction book. Warren St. John is a reporter, and he discovered this team, soccer team, called the Fugees, which is short for refugees, and they're from Clarkston, Alabama, which is a suburb of Atlanta, kind of, and basically the United Nations has used Clarkston as a refugee location for refugees from all sorts of African, Middle Eastern countries. And so all of these kids from different ethnicities, some of which who were actually fighting each other in their home countries, are in Clarkston, and they're getting into gangs, and all this terrible stuff is happening. And this woman from I don't remember what country she's from. Jordan. Luma is from Jordan. And she decides that she's going to start a soccer team for these kids. And they have no money, and none of the places in Clarkston really want to let them practice on their fields, but this soccer team kind of becomes like a home for these kids. And this book was really inspiring, and it gives a little bit of the history of the conflicts in all the countries that these kids escaped from, and that was also interesting. It was enough that I knew it was happening, but not so much that I was like, I don't want a history lesson. So this was a very inspiring book, and I would highly recommend it. Next, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Most of you probably know what it's about. The reason why I finally read Pride and Prejudice, it's been on my list for a long time, but Hank Green started a web series called The Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is a modern adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, where Lizzie has a video blog, much like this, except hers is much better produced. But I started watching them and just fell in love with them. They're brilliant. And I decided, you know, I need to read this book, because I'm a big fan of going back to the source material from adaptations, movies, and things. And normally, you know, I read the book before I see the movie, and I'd already kind of watched some of the web series, so I decided to read the book before I watched any more. And it was excellent. It was so much better than I expected, and I got to that point at around midnight one night where I was like, I need to know what happens now, and I almost did not go to bed. And it's great. And Jane Austen wrote this when she was only 21, which is my age. So that's really impressive to me. And lastly, for this summary, is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. And just read this book. Just read it. It is fantastic. I read it in less than 3 hours yesterday, and basically Lenny's sister suddenly dies. She has a heart defect of some sort, and she collapses at a play performance and dies. And it's her and her grandma and her uncle kind of trying to deal with this, and her sister's boyfriend trying to deal with it, and then this new guy comes to town who never knew her sister, and she kind of falls for him. But she's like an emotional mess, and she's like writing all these poems and basically hiding them all around town, which was one of my favorite parts of the book. In every chapter there's a poem, and it says where it was found, or where it was, where she left it. And it's so emotional, and there's love, and there's so much grief, and I think it was fantastically well written, and very, very, very emotional, so maybe if you don't want to have that much emotion, don't read it, but I can't recommend this book enough. So that's all for summary number 2, and hopefully summary number 3 will happen soonish.